The following production is brought to you by the Talkin Buds Leafs Show.
Here we go. Talkin Buds Leafs Show, episode 261. Back to our regularly scheduled programming through the holiday break. How's your new year been, Ryan? Is it a new year, new you?
I'm a big New Year's resolution guy, to be honest with you. I always have the best intentions of everything that I do, and then it's just a countdown to see how long it actually lasts.
Yeah, I would say I'm the same. Going to the gym is always one. I've been going to the gym on the regular, and you go now, and it's a bunch of new year, new me's in there. And like, I don't like chirping those people because I was a new year, new me once, and now going to the gym on a regular has become a vital part of my life and essential to my mental health. But it is definitely, I definitely have some resolutions of my own that I'm kicking the year off. Drink more water. Yeah. I'm constantly pumping myself with caffeine. I have a coffee problem. I drink so much coffee, and I need to just get off the coffee, drink more water.
Yeah. Join the tea side. That's what I do.
And
get rid of
not sparkling water. Like, I drink a lot of sparkling water, but that's not the same as having water. Just like no, that's not water. It's not.
No, it's trash.
It doesn't have the same impact.
No, it's just a carbonation fixation.
100%. So, we're into the new year. The Maple Leafs are undefeated in 2025. They get the captain back on Saturday night. I want to start with that because we, like everybody else, have been on this Auston Matthews journey where it's like, I thought last week I was making the case to shut him down to the playoffs. And in fairness to me, that's kind of the way it was looking. Like, he held a news conference last week where he was like, I don't know if it's going to feel any better. I'm just going to have to play through it. And his whole kind of demeanor and vibe was really like, it was not encouraging. Then he comes back, plays Saturday night in Boston, or against Boston, excuse me. Has looked as good as he's looked all year. Also, his presence unlocks Matthew Knies, who goes off and has been on a torrid scoring streak. He got another one Sunday night against the Philadelphia Flyers, a game I was in the building for, which I'll give my take on that in a few minutes. But just your take on Auston Matthews coming back into the lineup and looking the way it's bizarre. I don't know what to make of it because now I look at him, I'm like, he looks pretty good.
Well, you said it the best the last episode where you said the Leafs are playing a chess game against themselves when it comes to this. Auston Matthews, we don't know what's wrong with him, what's his injury, what's going on, speculating if it's upper body, lower body. And honestly, after what I saw against the Bruins, I speculate that it's something lower body because that was the best game he has played all season in terms of just the problem with his play this year is, he's not going to score 69 goals again, which is totally fine. That's very hard to do. But he looked like he couldn't skate anymore. It looked like he just wasn't attacking the puck anymore. The way he lifts guys' stick, the way he goes in and creates turnovers, and just his overall speed and the way he just looked on the ice it looked so off. It just looked like he was just a step behind from day one of the season. And then you watch him against Boston, and he looks like Auston Matthews again. So I'm just going, is that an upper body thing or a lower body thing? Like, now I'm trying to put the pieces together in my head because now all of a sudden he's skating and he's forechecking and he's taking pucks away in the first two games he's been back. So, he looked. I was very happy with the way he looked against Boston on Saturday. He looked really good.
And I thought he looked pretty good again on the team as a whole. I think they looked like they were on a second night of a back-to-back against the Philadelphia Flyers. Ended up getting the W, but I didn't watch him Sunday night and go, he looks slow again. Like, that line had some chances they made. They're really cycling and forechecking. And I think Matthew Knies, he is proving he's kind of figured it out with respect to those two. Just go to the net. Like, it's so simple. Just go to the net, stick on the ice. That's like, you teach kids in minor hockey that lesson, but literally that is why Matthew Knies has scored 4 goals in 2 games.
But the best part about Knies on Saturday was at the start of the season, I poked fun at all the smart guys who just wanted to come in with their take, like they watched every single college game that Matthew Knies ever played. Have the fact that he's never known for his scoring ability or his point getting ability. Look at the 3 goals he scored on Saturday. 1 was like a really nice tip. 2 was a spinorama. Unbelievable goal. Number 3, he absolutely roofs it on a quick one-timer in front of the net. You're telling me this guy doesn't have the ability to put the puck in the net? And like that was the most impressive part about that performance from him, was just the 3 ways he scored were all like, you have the ability, you have some touch to put pucks in the net in this league, the way he scored all those 3 goals.
I'm in the building on Sunday night. I'm sitting up. I sat up in the upper bowl, which I love sitting up there. I think the real fans are up there. It's far less corporate up there. It's way more rowdy. I also like sitting up there because I think you get the best vantage point of the ice. You can see everything. And I'm looking at the lineup that they had over the weekend, and I'm thinking, is this this is the best lineup they can put out there with the way their roster is currently constructed? Like, no Pontus Holmberg, no Ryan Reeves. Like, you could pick, you can nitpick about, like, okay, Max Domi's not a center and maybe he's better suited on the wing and all that stuff. But I just look at all 4 of these lines, and I'm like, this is, if you were going to play game 1 of the playoffs tomorrow, this is the lineup I think gives them the best chance to win.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. And yeah.
Nothing more to add.
No, honestly, I literally have nothing more to add. It's like your only complaint, like, Ryan Reeves cannot be on the ice anymore. Like, that is a fact. That 4th line has the ability to keep the puck in the O-zone. They have a way better chance of doing that.
That's a good 4th line, man. Like, you've got Dewar, who is proving that he can be a pretty good, like, Swiss Army knife. Like, you can move him to the wing if needed, and he can play just fine there. David Kampf since he's come back from his injury, David Kampf has been pretty good. He's played pretty well. And then I think Steven Lorentz, Steven Lorentz brings, like, a physical forecheck element to that line. And I think, I'm watching them last night. You're right. They're in on the cycle. Like, Lorentz goes in and bangs a body. They get the puck back. And it's like, this is like, Ryan Reeves was brought in here to fight. He hasn't fought all year. And he kind of, like, I hate to say it,
he's just skating around.
He seems like a really great guy, but, like, if you're here to do one thing, and if you're not going to do it, you shouldn't be in the lineup. It's that simple.
Yeah, he's just skating around. Like, it's just, there's nothing, like, clearly he's an older dude. I don't know if he thinks he, like, lost a step when it comes to, like, dropping the mitts. I'm sure there's a couple guys in the league he can still drop the mitts with, but I'm sure he's not trying to pick a fight with Matthew Olivier with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he's just gotten older and he doesn't feel as confident dropping the mitts. But if he's not doing that, then it's just like, he's just kind of it's like a bull in a china shop out there. He's always just skating, lumbering around, and there's just no need for that unless you absolutely feel like you have to have him in the lineup because you're playing against a team that's a little dirty. But you look around the league, how many teams are on that list of, like, whoa, we really gotta be careful tonight. We really have our heads up. There's not a lot of teams like that anymore. There's really not.
No.
So
no.
So there's no point in him being in the lineup.
I hate to say it because I think Nick Robertson has played pretty well, and I don't want to kick him out of the lineup, so to speak. But if you look at these lines as currently constructed, and if the Leafs are able to do what we all think they want to do, which is bring in another center, I think what probably ends up happening is Domi gets moved to the wing. Whoever their new centerman is slots in at that 3C position, and that's it for Nick Robertson. Your thoughts on that? Or could you see a scenario where Domi sits out?
No, I don't see a scenario where Domi sits out. I really don't. You just have to decide who's going to play right wing, because I'm almost 100% sure that McMahon and Domi are both left-handed shots. So that is so I don't know. I think, is Nick Robertson a left-handed shot too? 3 lefties on that line. I think so.
Let's look. But what do you think about what do you think about that suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, just going off like Nick Robertson's not doing enough to take Max
Nick
Domi out of
Robertson
the lineup.
does shoot left. He does
Yes,
shoot
he got
left.
3 left-handed shots on that line already. So that's not a big deal. Someone's already playing their offside, so whatever. Yeah, it's just like Domi sometimes has I'm watching him sometimes and he makes a few questionable decisions where you go, what were you thinking there? Like passing up wide open opportunities to the net, like taking a really dumb penalty against Hathaway, which I know he put McCabe out of the game, but McCabe was kind of asking for it, to be honest with you, the way he was kind of like shoving him down on the ice. It's like, what do you expect to happen when you're pushing down one of the toughest guys in the league? Like, of course he's going to get up and beat your brains in. So Domi takes that stupid penalty. But Nick Robertson, it's just, I would rather have Domi in the lineup than Robertson, just based on like the edge he brings.
Yeah,
they're equally like skilled, but don't bring enough skill on a nightly basis. Like they're kind of the same player that leaves you like wanting a little bit more in terms of offense. But I would rather have like Domi's edge and his ability to like back up a teammate or just be in one of those games where you got to kind of win it dirty. I think he's a better option in that sense.
I want to talk about William Nylander, and I think you and I deserve some blame. We need to take some responsibility because almost immediately after we went on our rant 2 episodes ago that he's the best player on the team, he's on his worst cold streak in 2 years. And I'm watching him Sunday night, and he just, I hate to say it, but he does look like he's sulking a little bit because he's not scoring. And on the second Philly goal, he just completely loses a battle on the boards. That was his guy that gets away from him, and they go in and score. And I just wonder, how does he get out of this? I don't know. He has another chance in front of the net against Philly, and he over stick handles, and it's like that's
that was crazy.
Yeah, that's just not something you see him do when he's cooking. And it's interesting because pretty much since the start of last year, it's been gravy for him, and he's played really well, and he hasn't had cold streaks like this. And he really like you can just see in the way he's skating, like it is weighing on him that he hasn't scored a goal in I think 5 games now.
Yeah, you can see it on his face. You can see it when he's on the bench, and they were showing the little hero move where he stayed after the period on the iPad, and it's like, what are you doing, man? Go back in the dressing room. Like, stop. Like, what play did you miss? What are you reviewing on an iPad in terms of a scoring chance? Like, I don't know. That was a bit of a hero move.
When you're a player like him, Ryan, I think it's a window into his psyche. I think when you're a player like him, like his entire game is built around producing offense and scoring goals. And when that's not happening for him, he's lost. And like he looks lost. Like a couple times last night, I'm like, Willy, where are we going? What are we doing here? And
well, sometimes he gets into the old cherry pick like style of hockey where, don't get me wrong, he's just as good as anybody in the league of stripping a defenseman at the blue line or at the red line and getting himself on a breakaway. Like, how many times do you see that, like every couple games, where he just has the ability to strip a puck and go in and all alone? And that's usually how he gets a lot of his goals. But sometimes when he's doing that and he's not scoring, then he's kind of neglecting some of his defensive responsibilities. And you kind of saw it at the end of last season where he was like on his way to 100 points. He was on his way to 40 plus goals. And then he like kind of like really slowed down in the last like 10 games of last season. So you have seen him kind of cool down in the past, but yeah, I don't know. He's got to have one, like Matthew Knies is a perfect example. Like one just had to go in for the guy, and then look, it just kind of unlocked him. Nylander's going to be fine. You look at the NHL goal scoring race; he's still second in the league in goals, even though Draisaitl's just completely taken off in the Rocket race. But it's just one of those spells he's going through. He just has to be careful not to. When you're cherry picking and you're going in and putting the puck through a goalie's 5-hole, it's fine. But when you're cherry picking, but you're not scoring and you're neglecting some responsibilities and you're giving the puck away, then it just doesn't look as good. It's a tale as old as time. Like it's.
I know I said earlier that I like these lines the way Bruby currently has them, but would you try him maybe with somebody else, or does he just have to work his way out of it? I would, because I think Tavares is playing well, and I think Max Pacioretty is. I just love the way Max Pacioretty plays.
Yeah, like how many more line combinations do you have to see from the top 6? You've seen them all.
You've
seen them all, man. Yeah,
you are so worn out by line combinations.
Yeah, like you've seen it all. Like what haven't you seen from their top 6? The only thing you haven't seen is John Tavares plays the wing with Auston Matthews. That's the only combination you haven't seen out of this group in however long they've been mixing their lines for. Nylander can play with anybody. We know this. When Nylander was humming 2 weeks ago, he's setting up David Camp scoring. Like he can play with anybody. It's just he's a star player that's going through a bit of a scoring slump right now. He has a little bit of a boo-boo face. He's going to try and cheat for offense sometimes. And when you're not scoring, it looks like shit. It's less forgivable when you're letting guys, like when you're losing your defensive responsibilities when you're not scoring goals. Like that's the slump he's in right now.
I was sitting down before this episode making a list of things that we were going to discuss, and I'm like, this might be one of the most positive episodes we've ever done. Like what is there to complain about? They've looked pretty good in the last few games. They're at the top of the division. They're closing in on the top of the league. I mean, you look at the goaltending, Joe Woll has been fantastic. Like since Stolarz went down, we talked about like this is a huge opportunity for him to take the ball and run with it. And he's done that. I think he has been sensational in just about every game he's played. Dennis Hildeby, the first goal against the Flyers was an absolute stinker. And then after that, he locked in. He was dialed in and he looked really good. And based on what you've seen between Hildeby and Matt Murray, I think as long as Stolarz is out, you got to roll with Dennis Hildeby.
Yeah, Matt Murray needs to see a lot more rubber in the American Hockey League before he comes back and plays, because he didn't look great the past. So whatever, like if Hildeby's going to come in and look half decent, then you really have no option. Like that's who you're going with, but it's going to be Woll playing the majority of the games anyway. So Woll's really going to have the opportunity to run away with kind of the number one goalie job right now. And I know he had like a little tough 4-game stretch, but he's won 4 in a row since then. This team's won 4 in a row. You're right. They're the top of the division. When have they ever been at the top of the division halfway through the season? Yeah. I like they've always been a good team, but there's always been another team in the division that's been really elite and has kind of run away with it early with Boston and Tampa. And yeah, you're right. They're closing into the top of the league. Like, I mean, they're finding a way to win games. They just won 4 games in 5 nights. Like they just played a ton of hockey.
You factor in too all the injuries they've had, and you said at the beginning of the year, I always come back to this quote of yours. You said at the beginning of the year that one thing that you're going to judge them on this year is leafy moments.
Yeah,
and there hasn't been a ton of them. Like even like the Boston game on Saturday, they were leafy in the sense that like they would score and then Boston would score, but they hung in there and ended up winning that game. Yeah,
that game, it was the perfect way to look at this season. It was. I don't really like, you can nitpick about giving up the quick goals after, but if you can that's what the season's going to come down to. And that's what every season comes down to with this team. It's they get into a big game in April that they need to win and they can't find a way to win it. So even though it's not pretty, it's not nice, you don't love seeing them giving up goals right after scoring goals, but at the end of the day, it's can you walk away with a win? And that's what I loved about that game. It's like, that's the type of game you have to win in the playoffs. Like they just never find a way to beat those good teams in those type of games. So that's ultimately seeing them win games like that, even though it's not pretty, like that makes me be like, yes, like this is what they need for their psyche going in to the most important months of their careers. It's just like wins like that to help them gain confidence, knowing that they could beat teams like that in those types of games. You could pull it out. Bad things are going to happen, but it's just about bouncing back and overcoming all the shit that they've never been able to overcome in the past. Like that's what this whole season's about.
Well, and I also want to hone in on the Philly game too, because that's a game in the Sheldon Keefe era that they lose like 4-1. Like it's tailor-made. Emotional night Saturday night against Boston. You got Philly coming in here, a team that in the past they might not take us seriously because they just don't have that emotional. This team is built on emotion, and Philly is a team that's kind of a middle of the road hockey team. And so it's just another game that they would kind of not be super engaged in. And did they play their best game against Philly? No, but Dennis Hildeby shuts it down after letting in a bad goal, and they win in overtime. And it's like that's 2 points.
Yeah. And we had
chewing them out earlier in the game. They kind of get it back on the rails.
And we had the November goats. Like, they're always goats in November, but like there's been a lot of times in December where you were texting me being like, I don't love their defensive game. I don't love the chances they're giving up. And it's true. Like, they did kind of lose some of that style that they were playing in November that was working so effectively. They were kind of go back to the old Leafs, but luckily they've had good goaltending to kind of like bail them out a little bit. But the difference now is, even though the record this season's not that much different than it was last season at the midway point, I'm pretty sure they only have like 4 more points than they did last season. But it's just the way that they can win games is really encouraging. Like, you can give up a lot of backbreaking opportunities. Your goaltending can make saves for you. Like, that makes you feel good. You can come out and not play your best. You could be missing your best player for half the season, and you're still finding a way to put 2 points together. Like, that's what, like, it's really hard to come on here and start like nitpicking things that they're doing wrong and this and that. It's like, I think this season has been extremely impressive from that standpoint.
After having been there in person, I do want to walk back a little bit. My take of like, oh, they're a dumpster fire defensively. They're a dumpster fire defensively. They still give up a lot of chances, but you know, one thing that really stood out to me being there and seeing it live that I don't think necessarily jumps out on TV as much. This team, the shot blocking, they never block shots like this in the Sheldon Keefe era. There's so many times where you're watching and Philly's moving the puck around and it's like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then somebody gets in front of it. And especially you're more aware because Hildeby's in the net. So you're nervous. Like, if they get a clean look, this might go in. But this, man, I don't know if it's like a Berube cultural thing or if it's like Chris Tanev will literally block anything and it's just permeated through the rest of the team. But I was really, really, really impressed at pretty much everybody's willingness to get in front of shots.
Yeah, I would like to know what the catalyst to that is. It's definitely, I think shot blocking is definitely a team mentality. Like, it's something you gotta sit in the locker room, look at each other in the eyes and the face and go, we're going to put our bodies in harm's way and jump in front of pucks all night, all season, whatever it takes. And I think Chris Tanev leading the charge for that and being just the absolute goat of blocking shots is definitely helped them in that respect. And I definitely think that Craig Berube, like, I'm sure that's one of his philosophies as well, because he's also a hard-nosed guy. So I think that I think Chris Tanev just being the captain of the shot blocking team has definitely maybe permeated throughout the locker room where everyone's just committed to doing what they can to get in front of pucks.
That's my theory too, because I'm kind of like, if you watch your teammate do that, like, you watch his teammate sacrificing his body like that, you're just not going to do it. You're just going to let him do it. Like, no, like that's gonna permeate to other guys.
I would make the argument that blocking a shot in the NHL is 10 times scarier than like getting in a scuffle after the whistle with guys like throwing punches. Like, I would way rather take on any guy in the league in a fist fight or a wrestling match than get in front of a fucking 90-mile-an-hour slap shot. Like, I think it's such an underrated part of hockey. It's like these dudes, their faces are not covered, as you've seen so many guys get stitches and sticks to the face and pucks to the face. And you're just hopping right in front of that shot. You have no idea where it's going. You do your best to get square to it and be in the best position. But yeah, like, it really is, to me, it's a team mentality where you have to commit to doing it because it makes a huge difference. And it takes balls and it takes courage, and you're going to get hurt. There's going to be bruises. Like, you've seen a bunch of dudes go down with little stings when it hits them in the skate or behind the shin pad or whatever. But I think Chris Tanev just being like, I'm not a pussy. I'm one of the toughest dudes in the league in terms of getting my body in front of pucks. I think that's been a huge difference for that.
100%. All right, we're going to get out of here. Short one today, but like, hey, we're feeling good in Leafland. There's not a whole hell of a lot to complain about. Like, if you could complain about one thing, not complain, if you could highlight one thing, what would it be? Like, off the top of my head, it's they need another center. Like, that's it.
Whenever I watch them play, I really wish they had another center, and I really wish they had another like high-end defensemen. That would be my only things that when I watch them, I wish that they had. I think sometimes they're lacking in elite talent on the back end, even though their back end has improved a lot from last season and guys are committed to doing whatever they have to do to put out the best product possible. But I wish they just had, like, we always talk about Morgan Riley and how he's kind of like maybe lost a little step. And I just really wish they just had like another, I think it would really put them over the top if they just had another like elite D-man back there who could like move the puck and wasn't like such a liability defensively, but could spark something offensively. I'm not talking about Tyson Barrie. I'm talking about somebody at a more elite level who could be in your top four. That would be my only like wish list thing for them. And their power play too. That's actually if you're talking about if you want to talk about tangible things that are actually happening, like their power play still is not good enough. Like that would be the number one concern.
You know what? You knew we couldn't get through an episode without some sort of chirp at them. At this point, to me, it's just stubborn. You know what works. Move the puck quickly and get it on net and bang in a rebound. And at this point, these guys, they don't want to do it. Like when you watch the power play, it's like the brief period of time this year that the power play was cooking, what were they doing? They were decisive, moving it quickly, putting pucks on net, banging in rebounds. And now you've seen the proof is in the pudding. You know what works. And they've just decided, we don't want to do that. That is 100% what's happening. In my opinion. They don't want to do it.
Yeah. Like Kipper said it best on the broadcast last night. He's like, there's $50 million on the ice. Like, I don't really understand how this is a bottom half of the league power play. It makes no sense. It's just, it's as if Berube is trying to get them to play a certain way and they've bought 90% of the way in, but that remaining 10% is the power play. And they're like, no, we are going to pass it around and we're going to try and score the prettiest goal possible. You can just see it. Like, I'm in the crowd last night. Everyone in the building, shoot, like all night in the building. But nope, they got to feather another sauce and it's got to be tic-tac-toe perfect. And I'm convinced. That's my theory. They've just decided we want to do what we want to do on the power play, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much trying to find the perfect shot. And we always talk about Morgan Riley, and you're a little harder on him than I am. But that is a spot where, again, a high-end D-man who can like drive a little offense. Because if you just had a bomb back there, or like you look at what Bouchard did with the Oilers in the playoffs. Like, I know he's not like a super elite guy, but on the power play, he's got a bomb and it's a threat. And it's just like that lack of, you can sell out to the one-timers on both sides because you just know nothing's really going to come from the point. Like that's also kind of hurting them as well. But if they go into a playoff series and you know the power play is always so important in those series and they never click, they never score. And I don't see any encouraging signs in terms of the power play going into the second half of the season and the playoffs. They got a lot of work to do. I'd love to see what Mark Savard's saying too, because he wasn't touted as the Messiah, but it's like this guy knows what he's doing. They brought him in here to figure out the power play, and it's like, well, their power play is the worst it's technically ever been in the era. Like they didn't score in the playoffs, but they always had a top 10 power play in the league, and now you're looking at a bottom half of the league power play, and you got to figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. So looking at the week, they're in Philly on Tuesday night, little home and home, then against the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina, and then home on Saturday against the Vancouver Canucks.
You know what happens every time the Leafs go to Carolina and play Carolina? Get their asses kicked.
So. Well, this is that we said earlier, we've seen like they haven't been as leafy this year, so let's see if that carries into Carolina. Also, the Canucks always play them tough. The Canucks are always a tough game for them, so that'll be interesting. We'll be back on Sunday. They don't have a Sunday game for a while here, thank God, because it just throws yours and my whole rhythm off when we don't get to do the Sunday morning shows. We're gonna do 2 a week where we think it makes sense. It's kind of the schedule is kind of. It's all over the place. So when it works for us and it makes sense, we'll do 2 a week. If not, you can count on us every Sunday morning.
Yeah. And it's honestly, it's also been the season too. Like it's just
Yep.
like when they're playing this well, and like it's everyone's just waiting
Yes.
for this second half, waiting for April. It's you want to come on, you want to discuss the lines, you want to discuss this, discuss that. It's just it really is like nitpicking everything. It's like, no, they're a really good team. We know exactly where they're going. Can they do what they've never done? Well, they've done once, but they just can't do. Like that's what the anticipation is of this entire season.
Their power play needs to get better. And I think, like I said, the shot blocking is fantastic. I think defensively, they could stand to give up a few less high danger chances. But outside of that, you're right. Like, what is there to say?
Yeah. They're playing.
It's so
they're playing
funny.
really
We're just
well.
Sitting here, like, what do you want? Like, they're good.
Yeah.
What do you want from us?
Yeah, it's true.
All right, buddy. We're gonna get out of here. Like I said, we will be back on Sunday morning. We'll be back bright and early Sunday morning because we got to be done by 1:00. I mean, like this is an important time of year with the National Football League playoffs. So we need to be in front of the couch to watch the Denver Broncos play the Buffalo Bills in a wild card game at 1:00 on Sunday morning. So if you'd like, or 1:00 Sunday afternoon, excuse me. So if you'd like to join us for that, hit that like and subscribe button below. We've overnight become the most positive Leaf show there is. So if you want to come on here and feel really good about your team, hit the like and subscribe button. Come on this ride for the rest of the season with Ryan and I.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. We will see you guys then.